The final frontier is no longer final, and it is no longer a frontier. Tonight, it is a battlefield. 350 miles above the Earth, in the cold, silent vacuum of low Earth orbit, the war between the United States and Iran has escalated to a terrifying new dimension. Minutes ago, contact was lost with USA-224, a multi-billion-dollar NRO satellite, more commonly known by its codename, KH-11 Kenan. This isn't just a communications failure. This is a kill, an orbital strike. The Pentagon's most powerful eye in the sky, the very instrument that has watched over Iran's every move for years, has just gone blind, and Washington is scrambling for answers. The KH-11 is not just any satellite. It is the apex of American surveillance technology. Imagine the Hubble Space Telescope, with all its incredible power, flipped around and pointed directly at Earth. That is the KH-11. It can read a license plate from orbit. It can distinguish between military and civilian personnel on the ground. For the U.S. Fifth Fleet in Bahrain, for Central Command, for the White House Situation Room, this satellite was their unwavering, all-seeing eye. Its loss creates an intelligence black hole over the most volatile region on the planet. The timing is no coincidence. This attack comes just 48 hours after a tense naval standoff in the Strait of Hormuz. It is a direct, calculated, and unbelievably audacious response from Tehran. The message is clear. You are no longer safe, not on the seas, and not in the heavens. Initial reports from U.S. Space Command at Vandenberg Space Force Base are chaotic. There was no explosion, no debris cloud characteristic of a conventional anti-satellite missile. The KH-11 didn't shatter into a million pieces. It simply stopped. Its sensors, its cameras, its communication arrays, all went dark simultaneously. A perfect, surgically precise neutralization. A soft kill. This wasn't a missile launched from the ground. This was an ambush. Another satellite, a predator, stalked its prey in the darkness of orbit before striking. The implications are staggering. This level of sophistication, the ability to conduct a co-orbital attack, was believed to be a capability limited to the United States, Russia, and China. Iran has just announced its membership in that exclusive and terrifying club. As we speak, emergency channels are burning up between Washington, NATO headquarters in Brussels, and other allied capitals. Is this an act of war? According to the Pentagon's own doctrine, an attack on U.S. space assets can be considered as such. The line has been crossed. But the first question investigators are desperately trying to answer is what happened in the final microsecond before the signal died. A final, garbled burst of data was received. A cryptic energy signature that doesn't match any known weapon system. It wasn't an attack. It was a declaration. There is no more ambiguity. Moments ago, in an emergency press briefing from the White House, the President of the United States confirmed the nation's worst fears. Quote, "The Islamic Republic of Iran has committed a reckless and escalatory act of aggression against the United States by targeting a critical national security asset in orbit. This will not stand." The culprit, as identified by the U.S. Space Force, is Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps Aerospace Force, and the weapon was hiding in plain sight. Intelligence officials have now identified the attacker as an Iranian satellite designated NOOR-3. Launched 6 months ago aboard a QSED rocket, Tehran claimed it was a simple imaging satellite. The world, for the most part, dismissed it. Another piece of crude technology from a rogue state, likely to fail within weeks. They were wrong, dangerously wrong. The Noor program has been a subject of international scrutiny for years. Western intelligence agencies saw it as a thinly veiled cover for developing intercontinental ballistic missile technology. The launches were often clumsy, sometimes ending in spectacular failure. But with each launch, the IRGC learned. They iterated, they improved, and, it seems, they had a secret, far more sinister objective. Noor-3 was not an imaging satellite. It was a hunter, a kill vehicle, a co-orbital anti-satellite weapon. This is a weapon that doesn't rely on brute force. It's a scalpel, not a sledgehammer. Over the past several weeks, analysts at the 18th Space Defense Squadron had been tracking minor, almost imperceptible changes in Noor-3's orbit. It was adjusting its altitude, its inclination, its velocity, a technique known as orbital rendezvous. It was lining up the perfect shot. But what was the weapon it deployed? The lack of debris rules out a kinetic impactor or shrapnel. The energy signature recorded doesn't match a simple jamming signal. Leading theories inside the intelligence community point to something far more advanced. A high-powered microwave weapon capable of frying a satellite's electronics from close range? A directed energy laser designed to permanently blind its optical sensors? This is the terrifying unknown. Iran didn't just build a weapon. They built a new kind of weapon. The most damning question now being asked in the halls of the Pentagon is, how was this allowed to happen? U.S. Space Force was tracking NOOR-3. They saw it maneuvering. They designated it a potential threat. But the bureaucracy of command, the fear of escalating a conflict by taking preemptive action against another nation's satellite, led to a fatal hesitation. They watched the assassin approach its target, unable or unwilling to intervene until it was too late. It wasn't just a technological failure, it was a catastrophic failure of imagination and will. And now, the U.S. is paying the price. Blind over the Persian Gulf. The loss of a single satellite, as devastating as it is just the first shockwave. The geopolitical and strategic fallout from this orbital strike is now radiating across the globe, and the consequences will redefine the 21st century. The war in space has begun, and the rules of engagement have just been written in fire. For the U.S. military, the immediate impact is a tactical nightmare. Without the KH-11's persistent stare, tracking the movement of Iranian fast-attack craft, monitoring missile sites, and protecting the USS Eisenhower carrier strike group becomes exponentially more difficult. Other satellites can be repositioned, drones can be deployed, but none can fully replicate the capabilities of a keyhole. The U.S. is now operating with a severe handicap in one of the world's most dangerous flashpoints. Yet, Iran's choice of a soft kill weapon reveals a terrifying level of strategic calculation. By disabling the satellite without creating a massive debris field, Iran sidestepped the ultimate taboo of space warfare, the Kessler syndrome. A kinetic kill would have unleashed a cloud of shrapnel traveling at orbital velocities, a shotgun blast that would have threatened every satellite in low Earth orbit, including Iran's own assets and those of its allies, Russia and China. This wasn't a reckless act of rage. It was a deliberate, controlled, and precise demonstration of power. It shows they not only have the capability to attack, but the discipline to do so without destroying the orbital environment for everyone. The international reaction has been a mixture of shock and condemnation. NATO has declared the attack an assault on the entire alliance, citing the interconnectedness of their intelligence networks. Japan and South Korea, heavily reliant on U.S. space infrastructure for monitoring North Korea, have voiced extreme concern. But in Moscow and Beijing, there is a deafening silence. Their lack of condemnation is a tacit endorsement, a clear signal that the era of American-policed heavens is over. The Outer Space Treaty of 1967, the bedrock of international space law, has been rendered effectively meaningless overnight. This is a profound psychological blow. For decades, American military might has been underpinned by total dominance in technology and information, what military strategists call information superiority, the ability to see everything, everywhere, at all times. That myth has just been shattered. Iran, a nation crippled by sanctions and technologically isolated, has found a way to strike at the very heart of American power. It's asymmetric warfare perfected. It proves you don't need a fleet of aircraft carriers to challenge a superpower. You just need one well-placed, homegrown satellite. And now, the cryptic data from the satellite's final moments is yielding its secrets. A Pentagon source, speaking on condition of anonymity, has leaked a terrifying development. The energy signature from NOR-3's weapon is not a microwave. It is not a laser. It is not a jammer. It is a technology that U.S. intelligence has no prior reference for. A novel form of directed energy that appears to have instantly and permanently overloaded every single electronic system on the KH-11. They didn't just blind it. They gave it a stroke. A complete, irreversible technological death. The board is set. The first move has been made. The question that now paralyzes Washington is, what is the next move? Every potential response is fraught with catastrophic risk. The United States is facing a dilemma with no easy answers, standing at a crossroads where every path leads to further, darker escalation. Retaliation is a necessity, but how? The most direct response would be a tit-for-tat strike. A U.S. anti-satellite weapon taking out NOR-3, or another Iranian asset. But this is exactly the trap Iran has set. A kinetic kill by the U.S. would create the very debris field Iran so carefully avoided, making America look like the reckless aggressor on the world stage. It would legitimize Iran's first strike and invite condemnation from neutral nations. What about a non-kinetic response? A massive cyber attack to disable Iran's entire space program and military command and control. This is a more subtle option, but one that is not guaranteed to succeed and could trigger a devastating cyber war that spills over into civilian infrastructure, power grids, financial systems, global communications. Or does the U.S. strike the launch facilities on the ground inside Iran? That would be a clear and unambiguous act of war, risking a full-scale military conflict that could engulf the entire Middle East. This crisis is bigger than one American spy satellite and one Iranian kill vehicle. It is about the sanctity of the entire global infrastructure that depends on space. Your GPS navigation, the global banking system, weather forecasting, the internet itself, all of it relies on a network of thousands of satellites, which, until today, were considered relatively safe. Now every single one is a potential target. Iran has turned low Earth orbit into a contested domain, a hair-trigger war zone where a single miscalculation could send our modern world back to the Dark Ages. Adding fuel to the fire, Tehran has just issued an official statement. It claims the attack was a measured and defensive response to America's economic and military warfare. They are framing this not as an act of aggression, but of self-defense. And the statement ends with a chilling warning. Any retaliation against Iran, on the ground or in orbit, will be met with the systematic blinding of further American military and commercial assets in space. It is a checkmate. They have dared the United States to escalate, knowing that any response will have devastating consequences for America and the world. The era of space as a peaceful sanctuary is over. The age of American orbital supremacy has ended. We are now in day one of a new, undeclared war. The Pentagon is at DEFCON 2. Its highest level in decades. The next 24 hours will be the most critical of this century. The world holds its breath, waiting for the American response, waiting to see if this orbital strike is the first shot in a war that will be fought not just with soldiers and tanks, but with light and energy in the silent darkness above us all. This is a developing crisis. We will be bringing you updates the second they happen. Stay with us. Subscribe to Global Crisis Radar and hit the notification bell. In this new war, information is your only defense. We are your eyes on the front lines.